For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's first practice of its 2021 fall camp. Shotgun, we were back on Howard Jones Field. It felt a little bit like the 2019 season, a little bit like normal. We got a closer look at the Trojans. First off, overall thoughts from today.
Yeah, just a little bit more back to normal, a little bit more normality coming around the bend, maybe. Hopefully everything is working its way towards a fall season where fans are back in the stands and everything is back a little bit more to normal. We got to see the players up close for the first time, wearing the uniforms, and it's about half of the roster that we haven't seen. Yeah. There's been a bunch of turnover for USC, bringing in a ton of new kids, a ton of transfers. So seeing guys like Malcolm Epps and seeing how big he is, we'd seen him in the PRPs, but now with the uniform on, with the helmet, makes him look a little bit bigger. Obviously not in pads yet because you have to go through the NCAA's acclimation period, which is a little bit different this year. It seems like it's going to be a little bit longer before we see them in pads. So don't be blaming the coaching staff. I know everyone wants to do that, but the NCAA has changed the rules a little bit, so it's going to be a couple more practices before they get in full pads, which Todd Orlando, I'm sure, is not happy about.
No.
But we did get to see them up close and kind of see some of the drills. Obviously we saw the safeties up close. Mm-hmm. That's a group with a ton of new players in it, a ton of young guys, and you can see there's a pretty big divide right now between the veterans. You're talking about the Isaiah Paul-Mao, Chase Williams, that group, Greg Johnson. They know how to do all these drills. They got them all down pat. The young guys, they're getting, Craig Nivar's in their ear, getting on them pretty hard early. But that's what you expect, and those guys are going to get better and better as it progresses. So it was good to see some of those young guys up close for the first time. And, just being able to see guys at eye level, as they're making some plays and doing some different things. So I think that was probably the biggest difference because in the spring, we were up top. We did get to see from up top, which is great because we get to see, it's a different angle. We get to get a different look at some things. But be able to eye level and see things, I think gives you a different perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. As Shotgun's alluding to, for fall camp, we will be able to see the first 50 minutes of practice from our normal old media pen that we used to have and see that field level view. And then for the last half of practice, we'll go back to where we were in spring on top of the pool deck. So we'll get two angles in fall camp, which is actually kind of nice. But as far as jerseys, helmets, shorts, you can't glean too much from that. But did anything stand out to you that you weren't maybe expecting today?
Not necessarily weren't expecting. We saw, some of the early first team reps went to basically the same guys that we had been seeing in the past. There were a couple guys that weren't there. We had a couple of guys that were coming back from injury. Really good to see Ishmael Sofsher, the defensive lineman from Alabama, the transfer, who missed the spring because he had surgery in both of his legs. He was back. He's not a full participant yet. And Clay Helton made it sound kind of like it's going to be a little bit down the line before he's ready to go full team period stuff. But he's back out there, was able to go through individual drills, so that's really good to see, especially because that's going to be a big position of need for USC.
Mm-hmm. As far as guys not in attendance, Drake Jackson is out due to health and safety protocols. Helton made it sound like they're expecting to get him at the start of the week. And then Isaac Taylor-Stewart, congrats to him. He had his first child, so he is out for a bit. And then we didn't see Tuasivi Namora or Mananoa Tufono, so those four were not in attendance. As far as injuries go, you mentioned Ishmael Sofsher. That's a guy who did individual drills, but Helton did sound like he's going to be slower. He needs to get into football shape just because when you have surgery on both of your legs, you're not going to be the cardio master out there come fall camp. And then we saw Jake Smith. It sounds like he has a foot issue. He did not practice today, and it sounded like they're fearing it is a season-ending injury for him.
Yeah, Clay Helton said they're going to get a second opinion on it, looking at it in a possible surgery there. Don't know exactly what the injury is, but he did say it was a foot injury, obviously with a receiver, a speedy receiver. That's one that you're always concerned about. Jordan Iosefa is obviously not back yet, which Keely, you reported that, a couple times on the site in the past and on the podcast. So, hoping to see him get back in there. A guy that we did see some of today, Salman Tulialapupu, he's still a little bit limited, but he was in there for all the individual stuff early, so that's a positive sign there. I think they're going to take him slowly just because, it's been three years since he's played, so they want to make sure that he can come back healthy and not have any nicks or bruises or bangs, that keep him out for any extended period. So, good to see him back out there, and the fact that there were only a couple guys starting off the fall camp is a positive. Did see one player get carted off. That was Katie Nixon. He had some cramping issues, Clay Helton said, so nothing serious there. So, the big concern is obviously Jake Smith because Brew McCoy is not going to be with the team right now. Clay Helton was asked about it. He said he'll reference to the university statement. So it's out of his hands basically. So whenever the university makes their decision, whenever the courts make their decision, that's when anything involving Brew McCoy will come back to Clay Helton. So not expecting him to be a part of the mix right now. So That means guys like Kyle Ford got to step up. Taj Washington, can one of those newcomers coming in, whether it be Taj Washington, whether it be a big body like Malcolm Epps or Michael Trigg, are those guys going to be using the slot? And they got a lot of different options. We've seen them move some guys around in different positions. They, Clay Helton talked about Kyle Ford is practicing inside and outside right now. Taj Washington is moving around a little bit. So I think they're going to move some guys around a little bit early in fall camp to kind of get a better feel of how everyone works together with all the new bodies they have in that receiver room.
I was pleasantly surprised by the progress we saw from Kyle Ford. In spring camp, he was only limited to individual drills. We didn't see him in team stuff, and he seemed to be moving well. It was better than what we saw in spring camp.
Yeah, still a little bit, just wasn't full bore, didn't have the athleticism that we had seen in the spring camp. Today, he looked really nice, running routes, making his cuts and everything, just looked more fluid, back to more and more back to normal like he was a couple years ago. I talked to him, a couple weeks ago. He's really excited about this fall camp, the opportunity that he has coming in, and that opportunity has only gotten bigger with the loss of Brew McCoy and potentially Jake Smith.
Mm-hmm. We also didn't see Brandon Keely. We didn't mention that, but he was lost in the spring due to an Achilles injury. And then Max Williams, who we saw go down in spring camp in the Coliseum due to a knee sprain, was moving around well. He wasn't practicing, but that's a guy who just you have to root for just how hard he rehabs and how hard he works to get back on the field.
Yeah, not a knee sprain, a torn ACL again.
Yeah,
so, a torn ligament in the knee, and I think it's like 4 months off of that, and he's back out doing a bunch of drills and stuff. He's a beast. He always works hard at everything he does, and coming back from the injury the second time. And that's one of the things that Clay Helton talked about with Kyle Ford is that the mental aspect of it, coming back from an injury a second time, which Max Williams is now going through, Kyle Ford had to go through, and to see him back out there and moving well today was really big for Kyle Ford there. And Max Williams, that kid I wouldn't be surprised if somehow at the end of the season we see him back in uniform, just the way he continually works. It doesn't seem like it should be the case, but I'm not going to count that kid out.
Mm-hmm. As far as quarterbacks go, what did you take away from the quarterback play? I know there was a lot made at Pac-12 Media Day about Keaton Slovis. Which Keaton Slovis are we going to see in 2021? What did you see from this limited practice?
What do I take away from nothing, really? I mean, when you're in just helmets, there wasn't a lot of contact. Clay Helton did say, and we were kind of outside waiting to come in at the very end, and we missed some of the team period. Clay Helton did say one of the things that he was a little bit concerned about with the team, if he was picking a negative, was that they were getting on the quarterbacks a little bit, so they had to, calm the team down a little bit with their aggressiveness. But, that's rare that you're going to have any real pressure on them right now. So it's first day, not taking anything really away from the quarterback play.
Now, as far as the schedule going forward, USC will have a practice again tomorrow on Saturday. They'll have a day off, and then they'll have 6 straight days of practice. So make sure you stay tuned to USCfootball.com. Full coverage up there. But Shotgun, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
No, just good to be back out at Howard Jones Field and, being able to talk to Clay Helton, not over a Zoom, in person, and being able to look people in the eyes and see as people are leaving the field, is someone limping a little bit, someone a little bit more tired, to someone, all those small things. They got some popsicles on the way out, a nice warm day today, so get off to a good start as the players, get an opportunity to get that first day done with. Now tomorrow they'll come back and you'll see where they're at after the first day, and you get into that rhythm, get into that routine, and we'll see how that continues to progress throughout the fall camp.
Otter Pop, Shotgun. You got to put some respect on Otter Pops.
My bad.
They're great. Also worth noting, there is some changes in how we can report on practice. It sounds like we're going to be even restricted more about play-by-plays and certain, obviously, scheme things. We didn't share that with you guys earlier, but it's kind of up in the air right now. It's kind of a little confusing, but we can't report too much as far as what we see in team periods. So just a FYI going forward. We'll be sure to keep you updated, though, on what we hear as far as that goes. But Shotgun, any final thoughts? I already asked you this, right?
Yes, you did.
Oh. First day. But that's going to wrap it up for USC's first practice of its 2021 fall camp. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out USCfootball.com.